Hey, Matt from Lawrence Systems here, and today we're going to talk about the UniFi Dream Router 7. Back in late April of 2025, my Linksys router started acting up and I decided it was time to replace it. And I figured if I'm going to replace it, let me try something completely new and see what it's like to jump into the UniFi ecosystem using this device. And I'm very happy that I did. Today's video is going to go a bit into the purchasing process that I employ for myself when it comes to making decisions for my network. We're going to look at the hardware briefly just to give you a sense of what it was that I purchased for a little under $300. And then we're going to go into the control panel. I'm going to show you some of the features I think are incredibly handy, a little bit different from some other manufacturers, and really reinforce why this was a great choice for me and could be a great choice for you. Before I could get started, I had to get my hands on this router, so I visited today's video sponsor, MicroCenter. MicroCenter is a fantastic retailer of electronics and technology items and a place that I have frequented since 1998 when they opened up a location here in Long Island. In fact, I headed over there, I grabbed the router, a couple of other pieces of equipment, and took a look at some of the great deals that they've got going on for July. They always have a great variety of exclusive deals taking place each month, and next month is not going to be any different. There's always something fantastic going on at MicroCenter. If you're unable to visit a MicroCenter in person, be sure to check out microcenter.com, bookmark the site, and take a look every now and then for the kinds of deals that are going on. If you're on the West Coast, check out the Santa Clara location that opened up a few months ago, and Phoenix, Arizona. Yes, you're going to be one of the next locations to have a MicroCenter. MicroCenter, thank you for your support, and let's get back to the video. All right, so first, I told you I was going to give you a little bit of information on how I like to make purchases for myself that are related to technology. And that's where we're going to start. I used to work for an IT management company called Valiant Technology. They're located in New York City, and they have this thing called the Valiant Pyramid. It's loosely based on Maslow's hierarchy of need, and if you don't know what that is, just do a Google search. It'll make sense pretty quickly. This is the Valiant Pyramid, or at least my crude drawing of it. We're going to go through it step by step on my computer. So when you look at this diagram, you'll see that the first thing on it is stability. A system, a computer system, a piece of hardware, a software solution, no matter what it is, needs to be stable in order to be usable. That's a pretty basic tenet of a solution, yeah? Now, if you can achieve stability in a product, you can move up to that next tier, and the next tier in here is security. Now, with respect to the UniFi router we're looking at today in my purchasing decisions, security meant whether or not the company was performing what I would consider to be due care with regards to security of the product. And the first thing to look at in a case like this is how often updates are made. Feature updates, security updates, updates in general, maintenance updates. And that's something UniFi is great at. In fact, they're one of the only companies, and there's a debate as to whether or not this is a good idea, and I think it's a personal preference, but they're one of the few companies that enable their updates by default. And in certain situations, if you're not going to be super hands-on with a router, that's not a terrible option. I find that to be a great option to select should it be one that works for you. And that pretty much meets my basic needs of security, knowing that this is being updated on a regular basis. There are also features like the zone-based firewall that go a long way as well, but we're going to get to that in a few minutes. Now, on this chart, the next step, the next tier of that pyramid is scalability. And when talking about a small business solution, of course, this came from Valiant, so that's a business technology management company. The scalability would mean that you have a system that is stable, you have a system that is secure, and now you can look at it in a way that lets you have intentions or plans on how it's going to grow with you, how it's going to scale to meet your needs in time. And this device right here fits that tier really nicely if you look at it this way. It's able to control up to 30 UniFi devices in its kind of management console. I can't think of how I would have 30 devices on my home network. Now, a small business network, yeah, I think that's achievable. But for what I'm doing here in the home and what I think a lot of other people are looking at this for, 30 devices would just be like, what am I going to do? Put like 4 access points per room or something like that? So definitely has room to grow with the, I want to make sure I hit it right. Definitely has room to grow with respect to its ability to manage technology and other pieces of UniFi gear. That's awesome. That lets me scale up as time goes on. It also has the ability to handle something like 300 connections. And in a household where it's me and a couple other people and folks coming in on a regular basis, that's more than enough room. So I do have the ability to scale what's going on in the household with respect to the number of connections being made, the number of services taking place behind this router. So that nails down the scalability section for here. And The fourth, the very tip of the pyramid for Valiant's pyramid, is innovation. And by that they mean once you have a stable system that's secure and scalable, it gets out of your way. And it lets you do whatever it is that you plan on doing, achieving your business goals, whether they are related to technology or not. And while innovation isn't really the perfect fit for where I would see this at the top of the pyramid, the getting out of my way part certainly is. Once this was configured, it sat behind my monitor, and that's literally where it sits on a regular basis. It doesn't get that hot back there, it's out of the way, and I can see the screen at a glance. It sat back there and did its job. In the 90 or so days that I've had it, I did a factory reset once just because I wanted to start over, put a configuration in place, a very basic configuration in place that I was happy with. And since then, I have not even had the smallest hiccup. I've had 2 updates occur, I believe, and neither one of them has had any negative effect on the network or my experience using this hardware. So thank you, Valiant Pyramid. You always have given me a great way to look at hardware purchases, software purchases, whatever it is. And in this case, it really worked out well. And I feel bad because I designed the original one and that was too easy of a thing to do here. Thank you, guys. All right, with that out of the way, let's move on to hardware. I'm going to turn around to the desk and do it from there. All right, so the UniFi Dream Router 7. It's connected to my desk. There's cables coming out of it because it's in use. If I unplug it, someone's going to come in that door and say, hey, Matt, why isn't Netflix working? So we're going to avoid that. We're just going to let it run. I've got another camera here at the desk. I'm going to see if I can quickly make sure it looks good. Boom, there we go. We can see the screen here. Nice and clear. You can see that my internet usage is not all that much. And since I've got the screen up, I'm going to run a video of Tom on the Lawrence Systems website so you can see what happens when bandwidth use, when you've got download or upload happening. Let's see.
Tom here from Lawrence Systems, and UniFi just released version 9.3 to be set up as well. Works.
There we go.
One in between. Is a highly secure.
No. We don't need ads. We want Tom. Okay, so you just saw what the screen on the front of the device looks like. You can see it has the number of connections. It shows your up and down speeds, and that's about it. But you know what? That's fantastic for at a glance. I don't need a whole lot more than that. And if I did, I'd probably need a larger router anyway. So great fit here. Now, let's take a look at the back of this. We've got a handful of ports here. Again, let me just make sure this looks good on the left screen. Aha! Not bad, Matt. There we go. All right, so we've got each one of these 4 RJ45 ports is 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, which is great. It's a nice step up from the gigabit Ethernet that I had in my previous router. Port 1 right here, that is PoE. I can supply a PoE device power over that fairly easily. In fact, the cable that's connecting to this right now is ending at the, the Flex Mini, I believe it's called, the 5-port Flex Mini from UniFi, and it's been working great. The other ports here, let's see, the black one is going to the desktop switch right here, green is going down to my computer, and yellow is my WAN port. That's going to my cable modem. If I wanted to, I could be using this SFP Plus port, that's 10 gig, which is really, really nice, as a secondary WAN port if I had an ISP that I can get a connection like that from. Or now that UniFi has made some updates to the system, I can simply assign that to being a LAN port. And that's what I'm going to be doing in a future video with a switch I got that's going to be replacing the switch in my desk. So like I said, lots of cool stuff coming up. But UniFi, aside from the ports in the back we just looked at, there's the SD card for storage. If you're using this as an NVR, certain other things, and I'm sure backups go on to that. And it's 64 gigs. If you find that you need more, you can always upgrade that. There's the power input. Ooh, that one's exciting. And that's really about it. On the inside of the device, you've got your internals, you've got your power supply at the bottom, which for the record is such a smart place to put it. Yes, they could have placed it outside of the device and they didn't. And I think that the reason I care about that so much, and let me see if I can make this happen by moving this camera a little bit. There we go. Even without seeing the front of the router, and let me see if I can spin it around for you. That way it's a little nicer for you guys. Okay. This has a very low center of gravity, and I love that because it's difficult to knock it over. I'm slapping it. Low center of gravity because you've got the power supply in the bottom, and it takes a lot to knock it over. Now that seems trivial at first, but I'm going to go grab my other router, and you'll see why that makes a big difference. Here's my Cisco. You can see it's old, it's beaten up, it's seen better days. The way that this is constructed, would cause it to fall all the time, to the point where I had to zip tie it to the shelf underneath my desk. And you already saw me kind of jostling the UniFi around. Actually, for the record, that felt a little uncomfortable. I don't like doing that to technology, but watch this. That didn't take a whole lot of force. That's why this antenna is coming off. That's why this antenna already came off. And like I said, this was a great router when it came out, but there were certain design decisions that were made that I found to be very frustrating with the form factor. And that is not the issue here. Let's talk about the very top of this unit real quick. That has 3 different types of wireless antennas. It's got tri-band in it. We've got 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz, and 6 gigahertz. This is capable of Wi-Fi 7, although I'm going to say it right now just from personal experience. Results may vary based on the topology of your network and the client devices that you have. So if you're going to purchase this, make sure that expectations are a bit set based on the type of equipment that you have in your home or in your network at the moment. This thing's awesome, and it's time for us to take a good look at the interface. All right, let's see. I've already got it here. Yeah, closed. Look at that. No, bye-bye. We're going to take a look here. Now look, new device detected, Flex Mini. Let's go ahead and, no, we're going to add that when we get to the right part. We're going to take a quick look around at this control panel before we do that. But that's fun because that adds a little something extra in here, and I love doing that. So this is your main screen here. FoxNet Edge DR7. That's the name of my device. It's part of FoxNet, which is kind of fictional. I like calling it that. And it's at the edge of the network. It's the router. It's what's letting us communicate with other networks on the other side of it. And even though it sits at the edge of the network, it very much is the core of a network because of the fully featured number of services that it has. And again, something we're going to get to. Let's keep going down this list. All right, we got our gateways. We already saw that one. We can see that parent device is Optimum Online. That's my ISP. We'll look at that in a second. There aren't any wired switches on the network under management right now, and that's going to change in a couple of minutes. I have my 2 access points. They're 2 different kinds. Let's take a quick look at those by drilling down. This one, FoxNet Edge APX, is going to be X, Y, and Z. Easy way for me to name them, remember. APX is the ACLR. I believe that's the long-range Wi-Fi 6 access point that's been released by them, and it's actually been working out really well here in the house. You know, retries are low, latency is decent, the number of devices that are connecting, or the devices that are connecting, are definitely ones that are in that area. Nothing seems to be having any trouble with it. In fact, you can see my mom's got a bunch of her stuff on it right now. If we look over at APY, this one's functioning a little bit better. Although it has way less devices and it's in a part of the house that's a little bit remote, I can see that there is an Amazon television, right? Yeah, that's a TV. That's a Fire TV that I've got on that. Back to the dashboard. I have 28 client devices on here right now. These are devices that are being handled by this router. Traffic is being routed for these. We can see my personal computer here, Compy 386 Mark II. It has a fixed IP ending in 202. Not a ton of internet activity because I've been recording content all day. It's a Windows machine. There's a bunch of stuff here. Oh, FoxMox. That's my Proxmox cluster that I'm working on. I love that name. We're going to be going into that soon. You can see that that's been identified as well. There's plenty of different devices here. No question that I have my fair share of IoT and Amazon related devices here. A lot of ESP32 type stuff. My Pis, my Synology. It's all here. By the way, I flattened the network as part of this change, and that's going to be changing again as time goes on. So a lot of things are just kind of here in mass. Now, the gateway IP, we can see here it's natted. I don't care if you see that or not. System uptime, it's been up for 2 weeks. We can see that I'm running UniFi OS 4.2.15 and network 9.3.43. So at a glance, I'm seeing a lot of information. The devices that are on my network, the number of clients, the software versions that are on this device. And just below that, I can see the 2 WAN connections. Now, I've only got one, so the second one right here, WAN 2 is not lit up, but WAN 1 we can see is Optimum Online. I can do a speed test if I want, and yes, my upload speeds have been atrocious lately. And now that I've got a pattern of tests that I can bring to Optimum Online, they're going to get a phone call and go like, hey guys, these are the test results I'm getting. Can you explain it? And I'm sure it'll get fixed because I'll have data to share with them. I also have ping times from Microsoft, Google, and Cloudflare. That's just a really cool thing to see at a glance. I really dig that. We have some information on the Wi-Fi, traffic prioritization, because you can put quality of service rules. In fact, I believe you can go beyond quality of service and prioritize traffic based on the application. So there's a little level 7, layer 7 magic going on there. And that is awesome to have in a router. I mean, we've only looked at this thing for like a few minutes and we're seeing some really, really great features. Right here, we've got network health. This shows up and down for the internet connection. You can see there's a lot more down than up right now, although there was a spike here, even though it wasn't a whole lot. Oh, this morning I was uploading some files to appear in the MSP space. That's what that was. That's cool. I can see my top access points, excuse me. The router is number 1, followed by APX, which is on this side of the house and had a handful of devices. APY on the other side that had fewer. Top clients, well, there's my machine. Top apps. Yep, it's summertime. Disney Plus is on TV a lot. Lots of other things here. We could look at the different channels on the radios that's being used. We could see how traffic is being split up. And again, we're just on the first panel. This is at a glance. In a way, it is like taking a sip from a fire hose, but once you take some time to look at it and you get used to where things are, this becomes incredibly valuable. The next page feels like a little bit of a flex, but it is very handy to find out what's going on with your network. We do have a topology map here, and like I said, I flattened out the network, so we're just going to go from left to right and take a quick look at all the stuff that's on here. Lots of IoT devices. There's APY with the one Amazon television on it. Matt's desk, that is a switch I have here, a gigabit switch, and it's doing a few things right now. It's got my Synology connected. It has one of the nodes for my Proxmox cluster, which is being identified by the old machine name from when I purchased the System Pull, so that's got to get updated. I've got a TP-Link gigabit switch that's in my micro lab where I house all of my Raspberry Pis, and I've got a Docker virtual machine that is sitting on top of this Proxmox cluster node right now. There's quite a bit going on in that switch. FoxNet Edge APX, there are a couple of devices on that. We've got the Flex Mini with FoxMox 01, which is the first of the 3 nodes in my FoxMox cluster, my machine, and a bunch of other things. Very, very flat network at the moment. Here is the router, and it is connected up to Optimum Online. If I were to connect on one of these devices, click one of these devices, let's look at Pi 5. That's one Raspberry Pi 5. We can see here we've got an IP address. It's on the default VLAN. How much internet activity is going on, the device name, really good stuff. We can see exactly what's been going on here with it, and well, I don't think it's a huge surprise. It's one of the Raspberry Pis I use for a lot of Docker hosting, so there's a lot of SSL traffic going back and forth, GitHub from pulling from repos, working on some personal projects, followed by Docker. And then Amazon, probably AWS related, things like that. You can see just a ton of information here. On the settings side, I can set a fixed IP address, which is the equivalent of creating a reservation in a DHCP scope. That tripped me up for a couple of minutes when I made the switch, especially since finding the reservations within the DHCP scope is a little different because they're seen as fixed IP addresses. It's a nomenclature thing. And once I got used to that, it's no big deal. Local DNS record, I believe, allows you to create a DNS record on the DNS server that's a part of the UniFi router. I'm not using that because I have an over-engineered bind-based system here in the house that we're going to be looking at shortly. We've got this US Flex Mini. Let's go ahead and adopt this device into the network and see how that works. I've never done it for one of these, and I'm going to be doing it for a bigger switch soon, so this will be the test just between you and me. Let's see what happens. Adopt device. Adopting. Take a sip of coffee while I wait. Wait, okay. Wait, it technically adopted before I grabbed the coffee cup. That was beautiful. And it looks like it's updating. It's probably making changes, putting some updates related to being managed by this router into itself. So let's see what happens. All right, there we go. I have 3 cables plugged in. 2 of them are active. The one that is feeding power and connecting the switch to the network, which is the first port here with the little PoE type symbol. And the second one is being plugged into FoxMox 01. I think FoxMox 02 was plugged into the other one earlier, but I made some changes. On to ports. We already looked at the ports in the physical realm. Now we're going to look at my screen because we've got a little bit more information to look at, given that that switch has been assumed into the network. We now see it's got the PoE symbol. It's got the USW Flex Mini on it. It looks like we're pushing, or rather pulling, 1.39 watts of power from the router, which is actually not a lot of power. I thought it was going to be a little bit more than that for a switch. We can still see everything else that's here. We can see the WAN ports not actually being used for anything. But I will change this over to LAN. In fact, I'm going to do it right now because we're going to need to do it for the next video anyway. Done. Okay, that is now a LAN port, and I can plug something else into it, say a switch with an SFP port, if I got the right cables. Maybe we'll do that pretty soon. We'll see. We're going to do that. I'm not going to, spoiler alert. All right, radios. Now, I'm going to be very, very honest with you. In the workplace, Wi-Fi was never my strong suit just because I worked in a company where there was always an expert. There was always someone walking around with like an Ekahau or whatever it is in their backpack ready to make something happen, or someone that would come in and be like, yeah, that naval yard's blocking the reception for those guys. So I've never really had to dive too far into this, but I'm seeing some things that I see as being issues that I need to resolve. And the reason I can see that is because how well the data is being displayed in the panel. I'm not concerned with the issue because I can figure it out. And the only reason I can figure it out is because I know it exists, and that's what this is telling me. I mean, look at this. The U7 Pro, I think that's the one we're looking at right now. Yeah, APY. The transmission retries is 40%. It's in the yellow. That's a clear indicator of there being a problem, especially when on the 5 gigahertz channel, frequency, you can see it's only 8.4. So what's up with 2.4? Is there a limitation due to distance? Is there something in the way? Is the issue the client side? Do I have equipment that's just not functioning the way it should? I don't know. Some packet capture and a couple other things are going to help me figure that out. But the fact is that I got so much just from looking at this right now to give me a sense of what may or may not be going on in my network, and that's a really cool feature. Insights. This is pretty cool. I don't have anything for flows. Again, that's something we'll jump into in the future. Activity. We can see where the traffic from my network is going. For the polling period that's in there today, which I believe is just today, you can see that I've got about 10 gigs of traffic that have been pulled. 2.5 is Disney. Someone's watching DuckTales around here. Actually, it's my mom. All right, so let's do one quick thing. I believe from here I can get into the range of how much this has been used. So let's start from May 1st and work our way to today. Okay, June 1st I've got data for on this one. Okay, this may be related to the fact that I did that reset, but this has been used for some time now, and it's just great to see that this data has been aggregating for some time. And look at the download on here. If I were to look at some of these things that are going on here, I could tie these to people being in my house, movie marathons, other things going on here. That's pretty sweet to be able to see. And the best part is I can at a glance get an idea of what's going on in the network. Like, maybe I'm pushing entirely too much traffic or pulling too much from something, and maybe I don't realize that I've got a service that's pulling data off the internet or pushing data to a backup service using a ton of bandwidth without me being aware. I use this screen to figure that out, and it's incredibly handy. Let's take a quick look at the basic settings, and then we're going to call it a day on this. I think we're done. We've been looking at this for too long. I want to get to that switch installation, and that's happening as soon as I'm done here, so I'm rushing through. All right, Wi-Fi. We can see that I've got 3 networks in place, Fox AP and Fox AP 5G. 5G used to be my 5G network when I had my Linksys. AP and 5G are basically the same thing now, so they're going to get merged. And sir, this is a Wendy's because why not, right? Absolutely. 2 VLANs in place. Like I said, I flattened my network and I kept everything very simple. It'll be made more complex as time goes on, and I'm going to have you be a part of that process. Primary WAN, everything. Everything we're looking at is really a rehashing of what we've already looked at. We've got the Wi-Fi information here. We've got the network information with the VLANs, the subnets, DHCP, the ability to make your customizations to your range, and any kind of other settings, setting up DNS. I'm rambling a bit here today because I'm excited to have shared this. This is way more than I was expecting to come from a product that cost about $300. In fact, I'm going to cut this off in a few minutes. We're just going to take a look at the zone-based firewall because I was talking about security before, and that's important. This zone-based firewall, and Tom has a full video on how to work with it, so I'm not going to delve into that. All I'm going to say is that it makes it so incredibly easy to look at your network and understand how things are being protected and what's being protected. And when you can turn things into zones as opposed to individual devices or groups of devices, it becomes so much easier. And when you can take that information and represent it in the form of a matrix, understanding everything becomes so simple. From DMZ to DMZ. I've got both fingers near DMZ. I'm going to bring them together. Block all. Great, so there's no traffic going from one thing on the DMZ to the next. That's what that tells me. Internal traffic. Internal to internal. Allow all. There are no restrictions between, say, traffic from my machine and the FoxMox cluster. That's what I'm getting from this. Let's see, something external and gateway. Allow return. That means that the router will honor a message coming in, assuming it's tied to something that's already gone outbound. I have sent a request to a site, and when that site responds, it's going to come in because it's expected. I'm allowing return. That's what you're seeing when you look at one of these zone-based firewalls. And they can be a little bit tricky to set up, but at the same time, I find them to be much more simple than some of the older traditional methods. And if you want to look further into this, check out Tom's video. It is awesome. By the way, he's got videos coming out for, I believe, DNS, DHCP, and a number of other services that run on these UniFi setups. So again, a reason why I didn't dive too far in is because Tom's going to be doing that, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel. No one wants to reinvent the wheel. We just went through the majority of this control panel, and I didn't even intend on doing that. The reason I did it is because of how much is there, how great it is to see all this data at one's fingertips, and to have all this flexibility, not just the router, but the ability to control all those other UniFi devices on my network, and at a price tag of about $279. That is one heck of a deal. It's an excellent way to get a piece of equipment into your network that, like I said, stable, secure, scalable with respect to the way I described it earlier, and best of all, if done right and configured, it just stays out of your way and lets you do other things that you want to do. And right now, the thing that I want to do is install the new desktop switch here. So I'm going to get this back behind my desk, get this video completed so I can move on to the next one. Until I see you again, take care of yourself.